So, good morning. Well, good afternoon, Scott. Can you briefly introduce yourself and a little bit about your work?
Sure. I am Scott Santens. I'm a writer and basic income advocate, and I have researched the idea of basic income for years now, and I believe that it's extremely important for the future of not only for reasons of automation and technological unemployment, but just for so many other reasons as well, as far as poverty, inequality, health, crime. There's just so many aspects to basic income that make it an extremely important policy idea for the future. I believe nation after nation needs to look into this, and I think that this discussion that's being created from the increase in technology is going to really bring this to the forefront. You can already see this now, but I think it's only going to continue in the future.
Yeah, and so if you were to break down your message, what is the message that you're spreading in the world as you're traveling around?
My message is that we really need to be looking at the idea of unconditionally guaranteeing everyone's access to their basic needs for survival. I see this as kind of a Gordian knot that's been created of our own making, where we've created a system that requires money in order to live, and the only real way to acquire money in this system is through employment. So we're creating this really interesting problem where we either have to guarantee everyone employment that they get money for, in which case you can actually end up paying people to do essentially the equivalent of digging holes and filling them up back up again. That's guaranteed work in order to live, which is also, I would say, is indistinguishable from slavery as well, since you're forcing everybody to work in order to live. Or we could essentially make what people need to live free, in which case there would be no pricing system for so much of the economy. And that would present its own challenges, like how you do figure out how much to make, what to make, who gets it, where to ship it, all these things as far as distribution and creation goes, without a price mechanism installed. So that's like you're looking at, someday in the future we might be able to reach a post-monetary system kind of system, but under the existing system we have money, and the best way to distribute what people need in order to live is through money. So I see that as really the only way to go about this, from this problem that should not even be a problem as well, of this technological unemployment. Because again, and I say that shouldn't be a problem, is that I think it's really odd that we are so scared about losing work, paid work. So we're creating technology, and the whole purpose of technology is to enable us to do more with less. And technology is achieving that. It's enabling us to do far more with far less. So why is it that we're afraid of technology doing its purpose of doing work for us? And I think that we have to. The problem is that we're not looking at this, in the right way. We should want technology to do as much work for us as we can. So what system do we need to create so that that happens? And so as long as we require income and require jobs to do that, we're going to be actually scared of this technology doing the work for us. We're going to be slowing it down. We're going to be pushing it away. It's you can see this right now is how much technology do we have that we already have developed that we're not actually using? Let's say you go through a drive-through, and right now it's funny that we're speaking through these speakers and you can barely hear each other. It's like, yeah, I like to, and then they get the order wrong a lot of the time because there's miscommunication. And of course, it takes a while. You're ordering and they're pushing the buttons on their end, and then you go up and then you pay for it and everything. And so we already have the technology. You can just go up to a drive-through and push the buttons yourself, pay for it there, and go up and get it. And so you don't even need that person whose only job is essentially getting paid to push the buttons that you would be pushing. So why is that? So why is McDonald's not like heavily investing in the automation of all these drive-throughs? Well, I think part of on the one hand, you've got the cost involved in technology, which is going down and down and down and will continue over time. And so it's really just about that price point of being, when is it cheaper to do the automation versus the human labor? And on the other hand, I think you're looking at a pretty problematic PR kind of issue when McDonald's will say, oh yeah, so we're investing in this and we're going to eliminate, say, 500,000 jobs or whatever it is, across like both McDonald's and all the other companies that would need to follow suit via competition. Like so I look at this not only as a compensation mechanism for unemployment, but also a way of actually enabling further automation. So when I talk about this at the conference, I think that there's those whose job it is to essentially automate work. There's a real kind of, I think there's some mixed feelings out there where you are very happy with what you're doing, you're proud of your work, and you want to actually automate all this labor because humans shouldn't be doing this. It's work. If it's a menial task, if it's something routine that you're doing over and over and over and over and over again, like why can't technology via software or robots, do this? At the same time, I think people are feeling bad that they are eliminating those jobs. They're putting people out of work, and so they're even like looked down upon, saying like, how dare you eliminate that job that nobody liked? It's a really interesting kind of conundrum that we're in. And so I just think it's important that we create these conditions where automation is welcomed and that we're bringing that and enabling that. And the results of that are that people are better able to pursue the work that they find most valuable to them, and that work may not even be paid. Which I think that so much of the work going on right now, I think just in general, the most valuable and meaningful work to us is oftentimes unpaid. And basic income, further enables that. If you provide the basics to everybody so that they can live without having to trade their work for income, then you actually have the choice to do more of like open source coding, and just, hey, I want to do this. This is it's good for the world, and I'm happy to do it. It gives me pleasure, and I don't think I should sell it. I want everyone to use it as much as possible, so I'm just going to attribute it to like GitHub or something, and that will be available to everybody. And so if you have to earn an income, then you can't really do that. And like there's so many people who are doing that stuff on the side because they've already are able to earn enough in order to enable that. And I think that's funny as well, that to think about like our side work is the most meaningful stuff that we're doing. It's like we're working in order to pay for our ability to do the work that we want to do, which is really weird, right? So let's actually enable everyone to pursue the work that they most want to do, and they can even contribute this in a free, unpaid sharing economy kind of way. Like I'm actually living that myself. I've crowdfunded my own basic income, and so every month since January of 2016, I receive $1,000 on the first of the month, and that's been crowdfunded through the platform Patreon. And so that's my floor. I can earn however much I want to on top of that. I can sell an article here, sell an article there, or if I wanted to, if I had a nice enough car or something that I could like do Uber driving, or just could do whatever I want to add on top of that income. But I know that on the first of every month, that's the minimum I'm going to get, and I can use that to pay for my housing, pay for my food. I got that stuff covered. And so what I've found is that I actually prefer just putting stuff out there, because I my pleasures in writing, my pleasures in sharing ideas and in educating, and more people are going to read my stuff if I put it out there with like a Creative Commons license. If I say, hey, here's what I've written, you're welcome to republish this anywhere you want to. Just, apply the same license. Say, just Scott Santens wrote it. Here's a link, to the original. Here you go. Like, have at it. I don't care. I'm not tied to, I need to get paid for you to republish this. Just, if I attach that license to it, just get it out there. Because I'm much happier with, say, 2 million people reading something I've written for $0 in income than I would be seeing like 10,000 people read it where I get paid $500. Like, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm doing it for the actual words getting into people's minds. And I think that there's a lot of that, not only with writing as one example, but with coding, with so much software that people are creating, where they just want that out there. And I think that we could really enable a lot more of this through Creative Commons and through open source than we do now. Like, we're reinventing the wheel constantly. Say, just with, like, again, with coders is a good example. How many people are, let's say you are hired as a coder, you work for a company, and the company says, okay, I know that this already exists, the software already exists, but we don't own the rights to it. So we need you to recreate this for us, so it's proprietary to us, and then we can use that. So you've got all these people writing software that's already been written, and that already has the mechanisms are already out there, but people are doing it because they need or they want that proprietary, that ownership of this. And I think that too is tied into this lack of basic income. I think that once your needs are unconditionally met, then you can also say, look at reforming like the patent system that we have. Right now, like if you look at the patent law and copyright law, where we've got, say, you write something and you have the rights to that for decades after your death. 100 years down the road, that is still your intellectual property. And I think that's kind of like, we've gone far beyond what the entire point of a intellectual property system was, where you just wanted to give people a head start. Say, hey, this is yours, you created it, we want to incentivize that. So for the next, say, 10 years or 20 years, then you get that monopoly, and we'll create that monopoly for you. And then it goes into the public domain. And that kind of logic is that we want as much information as possible. We want a rich public domain, and we've gotten away from that. We're like, the goal seems to be keeping stuff out of the public domain. And I think that just the entire culture, the world is richer when there's far more stuff in the public domain. And I think that as soon as, again, with the basic income, that enables this system where people are less likely to exclude stuff from the public domain in order to monetize it in order for their own survival.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing is this shift from being about survival to impact, right? Is that this is what it's about. What impact do you want to have in the world? And so with that, I'm very curious, because you say that, our audience is software developers. So when you come into Øredev, what impact do you want to have on the audience?
Well, yeah, for one, I want people to understand that, first of all, that technological unemployment is already occurring, because I think a lot of this conversation is if it may or may not happen in the future. And I think that in an audience like this, you're going to be looking at about 50-50, where some people are saying that, yes, automation is real and it will have an impact that we need to address. And the other half will be thinking, it's not going to happen. We're going to create plenty of jobs, and even more jobs we could ever have before, and so it's not really anything to worry about. So one of my prime purposes here, too, is to show that it is already in existence. We've been seeing the effects of computerization for decades now. We've seen productivity continue to go way up, But at the same time, we've seen this decoupling of income from productivity, where we've got people not earning as much as they used to, or earning a little bit more, or about the stagnant wages all across the world, in light of this increasing productivity, which is its own problem. And it shows that here we are making more and more with less and less, but people in general, the large majority of people, are not benefiting from that. And then the implications of that, I see, symptoms like Brexit, symptoms like Trump. We've got people kind of turning against this globalized economy that we've been creating, because this globalization didn't really seem to care about the losers of this. It pretended that there would be nothing but winners, even though there's a net benefit and that people are net better off. There's always going to be people who lose their jobs and who are effectively left behind. And those people you're hearing more and more from. And if you're not hearing from them in as far as like votes for Brexit and Trump go, you're hearing from them silently as far as like rising suicide rates, rising like the opioid crisis in the US here, I think is a big symptom of this, where you've essentially removed people's ability to live, pursue meaning, and all they're doing is just trying to get by, or they're on, say, disability, where you lose that disability for actually earning income. It's like you were locked off with this existing system. We're just totally leaving people behind, and I think that's a big problem that people need to look at. The elephant graph is a good graph that shows. You probably heard of that before, but it shows how this globalization has created just a great increase in incomes across like the global poor and global middle class. But as far as like the developed countries' middle class, they're actually losing from this. And of course, at the very, very top, they are huge beneficiaries of this. So that's a really dangerous worldwide problem, where you've got a whole lot of people who used to be the middle class in those countries falling behind. And what are the results of that? And I think we're beginning to see those results right now in a dangerous way.
Yeah, and understanding that. So, and I really love where you're pointing to, because this is really bringing it out to the bigger picture, and this technological advance is happening. Exponential technology is happening. It's not whether it is or isn't. It's happening. And so I think with people within the field within technology, what is their responsibility, from hearing this, because, in some ways they're the ones who are benefiting from this. They're the ones who actually are kind of safe-proofing their future by being in this field. But what is their responsibility in, moving forward?
Yeah. So on a policy front, I, of course, believe that they should at the very least be talking about universal basic income in every country that their citizens in. That's like your policy perspective, but also on a more personal perspective, as far as like the programming and stuff and the platforms they're creating themselves. I think that we really need to be looking at more of like what I call a netizen dividend kind of perspective, where we should be realizing that the value being created from platforms like Facebook and Instagram and Snap and all these platforms out there with millions and billions of users, is that the value itself is in the network. It's the people using it that are creating the value. And so certainly there's value created in the infrastructure itself of Facebook, but you could create a Facebook clone with all the exact same technology, and it would be worth practically nothing if it had zero users. The value is in all these. Essentially, you could break it. You could call it like atomized labor, where if you create a status update, you don't think of that as work at all. It maybe took like 5 seconds, and you did it for fun, but that was essentially a micro task that you gave away for free. And when you combine all those together into billions and billions of status updates and information, you're looking at big data, you're looking at the ability to mine that for more value. And just all that combined together is just a ton of value. And that value is going right now mostly to your shareholders. And in the instance of, say, a startup, and let's say you've got 10 people who've created this new platform that grows to a huge thing. Those 10 people are going to be extremely wealthy from this, but the users get nothing. They're told that what they get out of this is the ability to use the platform, which I think nobody would say that. Well, yeah, I own I own 5% of the shares in Apple, but I don't care about getting money for it because I get to buy an iPod. I get to buy an iPhone. Like it's not a fair exchange of value. Nobody would agree to that. So I think that it's important to start implementing these kind of dividends that recognize, I call netizens, where these essentially citizens of a network. If you are part of that, platform, you're part of the network that creates that value. You're a netizen, and you should receive a dividend for that. And there's some interesting new platforms out there that are kind of looking in this direction. And I think like cryptocurrencies are better enabling this kind of thing. Like Steemit, I think, is a good recent example of a platform that essentially recognizes that the value is being created by the users themselves, and it rewards them with a cryptocurrency called Steem. And so what happens is, like, say, compared to Reddit, where you would post something and then people would vote on it or vote down on it, and it gets lots of votes and lots of comments, you don't get anything for that. On Steemit, you post something, and a fraction of that, say 25% of the upvotes are shared amongst those who upvoted it, and then the rest of it, 75% of it, goes to the person who created that content. And then those cryptocurrencies are exchangeable for dollars, as all cryptocurrencies are. So this is an example of a software platform that is built around compensating the users of the platform. And I think that really this would be looking at. So how you can carry that to other things, how do you can carry it to, how do you create it like a YouTube or, a Facebook or a Twitter or, all these other platforms, and all platforms that we haven't thought about yet. How do we create clones of, say a Yelp, where you don't just get, you're creating so much value from your reviews, but you're not getting anything from it. There's so many examples of this that, if people were compensated for that, and if we even use that as well to recognize that people should be compensated for the big data that they're creating, then we wouldn't have as much of an inequality issue, because right now just so much of this wealth is going to a very small amount of people. But if that wealth was spread out amongst a farther larger base, then you wouldn't see that same inequality, and of course you'd see lower poverty as a result as well. And then of course also you wouldn't have to say tax and transfer, in order to kind of get around that, because that would be a form of, say, pre-distribution, instead of redistribution, which I think people are a lot happier with, because they feel that was fair and just, instead of, say, robbing Peter to pay Paul or something like that some people feel that is necessary in order to compensate for this massive inequality.
And there's so much to unpack, and as we said, we're only going to have a short interview here. So I'm just really interested, Scott, because it sounds like you've been working on this for a very long time. You have a wealth of knowledge, experience, and it feels like you've got this elevated point of looking into the future. So if you look into the future from a place of possibility and opportunity, what do you see happening in 10, 15, 20 years time?
Yes, I feel that that what this is enabling is really enabling a redefinition of work itself. And I think that's kind of a core point of this, is that we need to understand, or better understand, that there's so much work going on that we don't consider to be work right now. And that even includes, education. It even includes playing. There's so much even value creation from say playing a game where you learn, and then there's data that's created from that. But I think that we have to rethink what it is to be human. We need to be less of like automaton-like, less robot-like in the way that we work and the way that we think. And I think that's the direction that we're going, where this will be a challenge because we have to start, say, from the ground up. Like our kids in the future need to be taught more, critical thinking skills, more creative skills, how to be creative, how to work together with each other, um, how to problem solve, how to be curious, how to to have a sense of a love of learning. And some people are looking at the future of work and saying like, oh, we need to teach so much more science and engineering and math and programming, and just forget about all the other stuff. And I think that's exactly the wrong direction to go in. Let machines do the work that machines are best to do, and the job of humans should be to be humans. We need to figure out how to be more human-like, and that will be a challenge, but also it's very exciting. Just imagine, I see like a return to more of an artisan kind of working where, yeah, sure, a machine could make, say, 1,000,000 couches, and each couch could cost like, $50 or something, and you're like, yeah, that's great. But they're all essentially the same, and they're all, it's all about affordability. But there's always going to be a demand for like very unique piece of furniture. And there's always going to be someone who likes to make that because you're working with your hands and you're creating something that you created yourself. And I think that's what we're looking at in the future is people more able to create these really unique, important things to them that other people will also find important. And I think that we're also be able to pursue these things without worry of compensation. And therefore, you're looking at more pure research for scientists, more pure study for academics, or just people wanting to think and kind of better experience life itself. It's really exciting to me to think where that kind of direction that we could be going in, instead of this setup where people feel that they have to figure out something that they can sell in order to live.
So to finish up, I really would like to get a couple of sound bites because what you're saying is so fascinating, and to bring it down to kind of the essence of your message. So two quick questions. One is then, what is in a couple of sentences, what is the real essence of your the message that you're spreading?
The essence that I'm spreading. Okay. Well, I think that trying to think of like short kind of sentences or something.
Just hit it. It doesn't have to sound smooth. But it's just good because it's a real challenge. Because as I say, you've got such a vocabulary and so much depth. But I just want to condense it to the essence, if we can, in a couple of sentences. It's a challenge.
All right. Well, one sentence I can sum this down is that I'd like people to understand that jobs are for machines and life is for people. If we can automate something, let's automate that. No human should be forced to do the work that machine could do. If a machine can do that work, a machine should do that work. And humans should be free to do what humans most want to do, which I think is life, and even finding what life is about. Say, Mark Twain once said that the two most important days in your life are the day that you're born and the day that you find out why.
Yes.
And I think that's what our goal is about rediscovering. It's we need to find out why, and I think that this future that we're going towards, where we automate labor, will better enable that pursuit.
And as a coach, it's music to my ears what you're pointing to there. We're in the same journey. And then the second one, again, one sentence about. So I'm the kind of individual software developer who's watching this video or in the audience. What impact do you want me to have your talk to have had to take to push me forward after the conference?
Technological employment is real. It's a clear and present danger to societies as organized and structured right now. We need to understand that, and we need to reform our systems in recognition of that. And we should also welcome technological unemployment. That should not be a problem. It should not be a danger, but it is. So that's like a twofold problem. Technological employment needs to be recognized as a danger at the same time as that it's not be something that we're scared of. We should welcome automation. And so how do we do that? What is our job in order to make that happen?
It's a very powerful ending and a great question for us to ponder before we hear your whole talk at Øredev. So thank you so much, Scott, for your time, and we really look forward to seeing you in Malmö.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to be there. I'm excited to get a nice audience full of people that can really chew this over and possibly make some differences after the fact.
I look forward to it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.